Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Jewell, for being here today. Before I begin my questions, I'd like to play a quick clip from our last hearing on the Animas spill.
So when a spill like this happens, the accountability is for the person who actually needs to take responsibility for that spill to do so, which we had. And the second level is, how did it happen, and was there activity that should have been done differently? Is it criminal? Is it civil? Is it negligent? That's what we're looking at now, and we're independently having that done. Only if the actions they were taking were against an order or a settlement, or someone was found negligent or criminal in the activities. And those last two issues are what the Department of the Interior will help inform. But the difference here is that when there is an accident, you have to determine whether somebody was doing the things they should have been doing and an accident occurred that they couldn't have anticipated, or whether there is fault and blame. That's what we're trying to determine with the independent review. So when a spill like this happens, the accountability...
Thank you. Secretary Jewell, we'd gotten some emails, we'd gotten some information, and we have a EPA BOR Superfund Program work authorization dated August 20th of 2015, and there is nowhere that the things EPA Administrator McCarthy testified here were going to be investigated. So I'm curious, before that last hearing we had on September 17th, did you or anyone in your department advise EPA Administrator McCarthy that the scope of the investigation would not look into criminality, intentional gross negligence, or anything of those matters?
Congressman, what I do know is the facts that are in the record, that we signed a work authorization form, and I'll turn it over to David to explain what was in that. It was specifically a technical review. That is what we agreed to do, and I think it's fair to say that it is informing the ongoing investigative work that EPA is conducting. Our reviewers, our engineers, are doing technical reviews.
That's non-responsive to my question. I asked you if you or anyone in your department advised her that the investigation did not include looking for whether there was criminality, gross negligence, intentional violations, and I don't need anyone here to tell me what's in the authorization that I have a copy of. That's not my question. So you had the power to gather this information that EPA Administrator McCarthy testified was being gathered. It was not being requested. It was not being gathered. You knew before the September 17th hearing that we wanted you to testify. You knew you had the power to get the information that Administrator McCarthy said was going to be gathered. So did you instruct anyone at all in your department to investigate whether or not there was any criminal misconduct, intentional or negligent disregard or wanton negligence out there at the Animas mine?
Congressman, my department does not have the authority to conduct those investigations. I did not have a conversation with Administrator McCarthy about
You're testifying before this committee that you don't have the power to see if one of your employees acted negligently? You don't have that power? That's your testimony?
Mr. Gohmert, I do not have the power within Interior to investigate employees within EPA. The Inspector General within EPA would have that authority, but the Department of the Interior does not have the authority to look at criminal or individual investigations. Our investigation was strictly technical in nature and consistent with the work authorization that we did with EPA on the 20th.
The bottom line, Secretary, is that once again, though your department is good at holding individual Americans accountable, no one is being held accountable for this disaster. So, Mr. Chairman, as a former judge, I know the doctrine of spoliation is basically an exception to the hearsay rule. We're very careful we don't let anything that's non-reliable evidence before a fact finder, but that doctrine is sound, and I would advise the fact finder in this matter that The Department of Interior has the information within their grasp. They have repeatedly refused to provide it. Therefore, you may take that as evidence that this department was either negligent, grossly negligent, or intentionally violated the law. I yield back.
Thank you.